this thing's got to be completely tightened down so we can take the whole thing off.
Well, better too tight than too loose. Probably got my fucking gun on these. In fact, I will. Boom. I'm gonna loosen everything up on the sides so that it's ready. And then we'll move on to doing the hinges, getting the guards off and all that. I'm not going to worry about the bearing part of the jack bolts until everything else is ready. That way we don't get ahead of ourselves and start doing the jack bolts before we've loosened everything we're supposed to.
So you had to tighten the sides down to make sure the ends were tight, and then you got to loosen the sides back up.
Right. The ends have to be tight. If your ends are not tight when you jack it up, it'll separate your lid, and your bottom part of your coffin will stay down in the case, and you'll never get your coffin jacked up properly to put the cushions in. So you're always better off. Gotta go through this twice like I'm doing right now. It's better to do that than to not have your coffin come up all the way. If you jack these bearings too high, you can mess up the alignment. So you know, if you don't have the ends tight, the lid comes up, coffin doesn't. You keep jacking, trying to get it. You're going to end up your bearings being off, and then whenever you do put it back together to run, it's going to start vibrating, and you're going to wear bearings out. Shit like that. Jack it up, pull all the spacers and cushions out, tighten everything back up, do the belts, the coupling for the back drive, all that crap.
Guard's coming off. Right here.
I hate when that happens. there a washer?
Nope,
I'm just not seeing
nothing.
it.
No, no washer.
No washer. Huh. I'm sure there's a reason. Okay. All nut bolts and washers are together in a safe place. So this card comes out first. And this card, okay, go that way somewhere. Ready?
Yep.
Stay there. So over here out of the way. Perfect. Okay, next thing we got to do, we got to separate this coupling. And I don't fucking remember. I think you got to loosen.
You gotta loosen that set screw.
I think, but I don't remember. It's been a long ass fucking time. Well, we'll try sanding, wire wheeling, or wire brushing this up and loosening that. And we'll see. This has to separate though, so that when you lift this up, it doesn't fucking pull all this and fuck up your motor. I just don't remember exactly where it separates. Okay, now we'll get an Allen wrench, we'll loosen that, see if that does the job. This right here is the is part of your sensor. If you'll notice down here on this, there's a little sensor thing with a wire.
Oh yeah, I see it.
And that's
down
what counts your RPMs and tells you how fast your conveyor is turning. So if you mess this alignment up or anything, then your
throw it off.
VFD, it's not going to read right. It's not going to tell you the proper reading, or it may just not run it all on you. You know the kind of attitude these things get if shit isn't just right. Machines can be such.
Yeah.
They remind me of a
It's
woman.
a lot of RPM. Start vibrating pretty bad.
Okay, there's all the fucking dirty stuff off. Put some clean lube on here. And let's see what size this is. Close. Nope. That means it's fucking metric. American built machine with metric screws. What the fuck? It worked.
Yeah.
I guess I remembered right. Is he hitting that truck or what?
No, the curb's hitting the tire's hitting the curb or something, or they're running something over. And shitty drivers.
Needs more practice. It's pretty loose already. Maybe I just need something bigger. There we go. Now it's clear. We'll tighten this. Make sure this key stops in. There we go. We'll tighten this back down so nothing comes loose on the trip. There we go. Now that should move while it's being driven. Okay, next we gotta loosen the belts. Now the setup they have on these electric motors for centrifuges is fucking awesome. All you gotta do is loosen these bolts up on this plate, and you use these screws here. This one only has one, that's even better. Some have one on each end, some only have one. But once you get the bolts loose on the plate, you can move the entire motor just by turning this one screw. And it'll keep it pretty well straight,
Yeah.
and in line with the other pulley, instead of having to loosen all 4 bolts and jack your motor with a bar and all that shit, which is really a pain in the ass. This is what a good design. Yep. Fiddlesticks.
You just got to loosen them up just enough so the motor can slide, huh?
Yes, that's it. Well,
Got to move this cable.
maybe, maybe not. There we go. Perfect. I'm not a big fan of using open end on real tight bolts, but sometimes you don't have no choice. Because sometimes, you know, the open end part will slip on you. Impact over here for this one if it's too tight. Wow.
Got it.
Okay. A little bit of grease goes a long way. Let's go on this side. like 15/16 as well. Impact, I laid it somewhere. Need to go in. I don't know, remember which way it is. Okay, that's probably loose enough since we're not going up a lot. Some got dairy cans. We'll try and take these belts completely off, but it's one more loose thing to get lost in transit if you take the belts all the way off. So as long as you have it loose enough where it doesn't pull tight on it when you jack it up, I don't see the point in taking shit off so it can get lost. That's just my opinion from my time working on this stuff. Okay. Now that we have the coupling off, separated, and the belts loose, the ends of the coffin tight, all the coffin lid bolts on the sides are loose, but still just a couple threads to hold it in place. We're going to loose the hinges and go to the bearings. I tried doing it without loosening these once. I bent one.
You got to make sure they're loose.
So always make sure, you don't want to take them all the way out. You just want them loose so that it's kind of flopping around a little bit. And then when you put it back together, it won't fuck you so much. If you take them all the way out, then you have sometimes you have the issue of lining them back up.
Yeah.
So that's why I always try to leave everything in place with just a couple threads.
So nothing gets lost, and then put it all back together.
And everything stays in place. Because if this gets out of alignment, you start getting vibrations, you start getting that sound and shit, and then you're looking around going, what the fuck's wrong with this piece of shit? It sounds like my fucking cousin on my mom's side. I got one of those.
Then it all goes back together in reverse.
Exactly. Get your bowl down, do all that, tighten everything up, one piece at a time. As long as you don't get in a hurry, it's really not too bad. I mean, we do get paid by the hour, so that's loose. So we know we're golden, but it's still in place. Or if it's starting to rust or something, thinking I might pull that out, put a little anti-seize or something on it for you and run it back in. Okay, now there's no pressure on it. Let's see. Yeah, see, it's still fucking tight. That's never a good sign. That's gonna end up fucking golden threads or locking up on somebody somewhere down the line. So we'll go ahead and do just a touch of preventative right now. Pull this out and wire brush it, put some anti-seize on it.
Run it back in so it's on the threads.
Yep. That way the next person that comes and works on it isn't screwed by something they had no control over. Now, this was greased once upon a time. Oh yeah. Felt a lot better.
Got the anti-seize on there and worked it back in.
Yeah. It's still kind of snug now that you're down that far, but it's better than it was. Okay, hinges are loose, coffin lid is loose, belts off, coupler's loose. Okay, next we gotta loosen up the
bearing bolts.
yeah, loosen the large ones up first. These will also only be loose, and these we will take out. I can't remember.
So top half of the bearing's coming out?
No, the jack bolts, I'll show you those right now. They go through here. They thread into this part, and as they thread into this part, it's got a long pin that pushes against this, and it actually lifts it up.
Gotcha.
Here, I'll show you. Part threads in to the bottom part, and this part will actually go against the
frame of it.
the frame of your centrifuge, and it will push the entire bearing up. But you got to go just a little bit on each side at a time, so that you don't kink the bearing or something. You go just a little bit, and then a little bit, and you lift the whole bearing up, and then after you get that one so far, then you do the other one. You want to try and lift it up as evenly as possible. Not that one. Not that one. Safer way to do this is with a breaker bar than a ratchet, but we're going to be putting rubber cushions between here and here. I don't see any rubber cushions around here, but I did bring some.
Okay.
So we'll make sure. So roughly, we'll go a little bit higher. That should give us enough room for that to go between there and there when we jack it up. So, now we'll do the other 3 bolts. Oh yeah, I forgot. We gotta listen to those pin bolts too. I forgot. Those are guides that help keep it straight.
Thing's not budging. Do the same thing on this side.
Yeah, but the one down in here, because of all the sensor wires and everything, you really got to be careful that you don't slip and tear or break one of these wires, because if you do that, then your unit's not going to run until you fix what you break. So being that it's way down in that hole, you got to add an extra extension to it. The way up here, it's got what, 330 pounds torque or whatever it is. 330, 270, depending on the bearing. So that back one in there will be a little sketchy.
Yeah, tight space right there.
Yep.
Especially trying to get that breaker bar in the middle there. Maybe it's not as tight since they couldn't get to it.
Hope and pray. You are supposed to torque those. Depending on the unit and the model, it ranges anywhere from 270 to 330 or some shit. So. But I need another. Fuck. The more you come out on this with your breaker bar, the less control you have. I was hoping you wouldn't have to come out too far.
There it goes.
Other people don't. If they come loose out of the hole, because these go all the way through here into a machined hole in the frame, and if they do come loose, as long as your nut is on your threads, you can hammer it back down. Hence, that's why this is smaller and it's rounded, and it will help keep your bearing within reason.
Yeah, keep it lined up.
Yeah, but if you lose these, then it can be a ugly situation. I took my wire brush and moved over there. Where the fuck's my wire brush? This is another one of them things where using channel locks is not recommended. Now, we're only going to take it to the top of the threads. That way it doesn't pull it out of the machine hole. These really should never be real tight anyway, because if you put them too tight, it'll pull it out. And then it's only resting in your bearing and not in your frame. Bastard. That's good enough. A little more, just to make me feel warm and fuzzy. There we go. I like it. We are ready to jack it up. What size are those? Welcome to working for Plain Silver. these threads just because, you know, I'm an old woman. That's it. You always want to run these down at least a little bit by hand just to make sure.
And those lifting bolts came with the centrifuge?
When you buy these brand new, it comes with jack bolts. Okay, before we jack this up, you always want to do a walk around and make sure you didn't miss nothing. So we're going to double check. The motor is separate from the drive motor is separate from the conveyor and the bolt. Your belts are loose. I believe they're loose enough. Some people take them all the way off. You probably could if you wanted to, but I don't want to. Okay? Pin bolts are loose. Your bearing bolts are loose on both sides. Coffin lid bolts are tight. Everything is loose all the way down on both sides. Come to the other end and double check it. Bearing bolts are loose. Your machine pins are loose. Hinge bolts are loose. So I do believe we're ready. You only want to do it a little at a time. A little more. Think we got enough gap there for that rubber?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it looks like it. Where's the rubber at? I'll check it.
It's on top of the coffin over there.
A little more. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Let's see if it'll slide under here. Yep, that'll
And that's
work.
just so it can set on? So
Yeah.
it can sit
We
and
will-
rest?
We'll cut her down so it'll fit down in there in between the bolts.
Or just put one on each side?
And slide it under on each side. And we'll block the coffin lid. Because if you'll notice your coffin lid on the side, on this side, has that gap already.
Yeah.
So, now we gotta do this side. I like this gun. I had a Snap-on for years and the body was thinner. But like I said, I had it for years. I wore the fuck out of it. Shit. Yeah.
It fits. Yep.
There you go. Okay. Underneath the bearing, in between the bolts on both sides, we'll get the blocks of wood. We'll space them out along the coffin lid, and then we can put it all back down.
Yeah. LAX is a mile from here. Oh, so they're just gonna go right in the center.
If you can't get them in center, you can always put them, you know, one on each side. So, but you need to cushion it good. When you take it apart, that's the big part, pain in the ass, because you got to make sure it's clean as best you can between the bottom of the bearing and the frame. Otherwise, you know, it can wear loose as the dirt and everything works its way free. So, some places will use like wood shims or something, and they start coming apart, and you end up with splinters and stuff in between there, and then getting it out is a fucking.
Oh yeah. It's better just to use the rubber so it's at least clean and ain't gonna.
I like this hard rubber. It's really durable, but yet it does have some cushion to it. But that's just another opinion thing. I don't know nothing. I've never been nowhere. I've never been. It's interesting. Okay, now we'll pull the jack bolts out, set it back down. Oh wait, I forgot. Why is this not up? Very nice.
All the bolts are loose, so it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and it's tight here, so it should have pulled it up with it. Oh well, these things happen. See, this side's up.
Yeah, this side's got the gap. The other side's still down.
Well, how many of these wood shims do we have? 4? These are kind of thick.
6.
I'll bet you. Maybe the one. No, that's too small, huh? I don't know. No, let's see if we can get these on this side. And, nope. Needs to go a little higher, huh? And these are already tight.
No, I hate that I got the sushi.
Allen wrench here. Okay, we have 2 options here. I can either try and jack this up a little bit more, or cut rubber and put it in there.
We've got 6 of them.
Yeah. Because you want them the same for the most part, as far as thickness and everything. I can't cut straight for the life of me.